Hello everybody, welcome to the third and what is the final video of today, unless we get the new update, which I'll probably kind of cover, I don't know, some elements. I don't know if Kabam are planning to do some kind of improvements with the UI. I know there's like some stuff I may want to cover, but you know, it's a pretty kind of like dry, it's been a couple of months, and I'm really kind of looking forward to Wednesday, and as well getting some content done, especially with like, I'm going back to do Exploring 7.3, which should be to the latter point of the month, so come along for those live streams and also some content which will be coming very, very soon. But we need to go over Misty Knight and some of our abilities. We're going to be jumping between this and as well a deep dive in order to get some footage and coverage and some visual aspects. Where Captain America Sam Wilson has elements of crits, the champion Misty Knight has more an element of crits, and also seems to retain some elements of things that a lot of skilled champions have, like purification, which seems to be a bit of a hot topic right here. But also getting some things when it comes to how the champion does investigations, which touches on the character's backstory and especially associations with Heroes for Hire, Colin Wing, and their kind of like private investigation teaming. So a lot of the champion's damage comes from cold snaps, which is Misty Knight can apply cold snap on an opponent using a special 2. This denies mobile science heroes their evade capabilities and also allows her to place frostbites on the opponent. So similar, if you've got like, if you know Iceman, you'll know how that functions and how that can be quite devastating, which is kind of annoying because we do have Iceman not being as devastating compared with some, it's another kind of avenue to go down as to like, okay, was the cold snap from and frostbite from Misty Knight more powerful than Iceman? But I'm not going to go down that. That's maybe a job for another day. Anti-metal armor breaks. Misty Knight consumes her anti-metal charges to apply armor breaks to her opponent, taking out bulky threats with ease at the cost of her charges. So the more charges you build, the more that you can do with stuff. Charge is going to be very important. We'll talk about that in a minute. But also both anti-metal charges and Misty Knight's signature ability are great at purifying debuffs from the opponent. This is going to be good. If Misty Knight doesn't seem to be like a quintessential go-to champion, at least you would have another option of being similar to the likes of Black Panther with intercepting. That's the OG Black Panther, Jabari Panther, Crossbones when it comes to shrugging off of purifying particular, and Mole Man as well when it comes to purifying debuffs and how that can be helpful against different Cavalier nodes. The champion's aggressive nature does very much impress me, and as well being quite devastating around the basis of Cold Snap and Frostbite is probably one of the main things. This SP2, which is on screen right now, and how it can build up to kind of, first of all, that Cold Snap, and then it's a case those extra Frostbites can really build up as well. And you can see, like, you can go for a rapid extent of damage build up in a very short space of time, which is massively impressive. And even clocking it at that 93,000 damage, which we can see on screen right now, it's massive. Now, we don't get any kind of idea because this is in the, the deep dive. Is this a case that the champion may have had bleed or poison and purify it off? So this could be a Suicide Mastery Misty Knight. We don't really know that. We don't really learn that. And at the same time, could that be kind of a misleading thing? Debatable on that one, but that's something to point out. This footage, even though doesn't show purification of a poison or bleed debuff based on that being a that particular thing, you can't really see it. So I'd expect at this point to see recoil, which I don't. So it does mean that is non-suicide. So that's something to point out as well. So let's look at the abilities in a bit more detail. So anti-metal and cryogenic charges. Misty has the ability to build a anti-metal and cryogenic, God, I've got to say that right, charges using a metallic arm. These charges provide benefits once they reach certain thresholds or become balanced, putting Misty into equilibrium. Charges capped at 12 charges each. Okay, I think that needs like a bit more kind of process to kind of explain from a visualization standpoint. And once you're in there, you know how this kind of like helps out. But I think there are some kind of benefits, but it could be very much a case of copy paste with similarities, like the payoff. And this is the thing, I'm going to compare it a little bit to Jabari Panther meets maybe a champion that can interact with evading champions. Because Jabari Panther has that Huntress payoff, and it does feel like Misty Knight is in a similar nature. So building charges. When either champion performs a well-timed block, Misty gains 2 anti-metal charges. Against science champions, Misty gains 3. Instead, whenever champion dodges an attack, Misty gains 2 cryogenic charges. Against science champions, Misty gains 3 charges. Misty lands a light combo and ender, she gains 1. So you could go like a 5-hit combo ending medium, or 5-hit combo ending medium, or kind of like, or maybe kind of just like, I don't know, tap, swipe back, medium, swipe back, or kind of like, or kind of parry, light, then stop. It's like, I don't know, like if it's kind of like how you kind of you'd have to do like 2, wouldn't you? Because that's a combo, like 2. Anyway, like that'll be kind of like interesting to feel the quick build. Can you quick build with the champion, and is it good? And also Misty's heavy attack raises her lower charge by 3 if there's a difference of at least 3 between the 2 charges. First, it increases anti-metal, blah 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 blah. Struck by basic, she has 20% chance to increase her lower charge. Okay, right, that's an option. Misty's core kit revolves around the parry and dexterity masteries. You'll be using them often to build up charges, as Misty additionally methods building charges are focused on making minor changes to keep Misty's equilibrium as easy as possible. So there's a lot of things. It's kind of like, I'm not saying it's like ridiculously wordy. It's just kind of like, it feels like it's it just feels like it's just, I don't know, a bit of a drag to go, oh, go do this, balance this and stuff. So it doesn't feel like there's over complexity. It just feels like a bit of like pointless complexity to the way of building the champion, that you just go, oh, right, okay, is this how it's got to be? Even more so when you compare that again against, as we said, Jabari Panther, other champions, other skill-based champions, where the payoff is very different in its building and sometimes doesn't have to require quite so many things to kind of watch the top left-hand corner a lot. And that's the biggest problem when you're kind of like focusing too much on what's happening top left, then you're focusing less on the fight. And with the current state of affairs, with the way that Kabam build enemy AI and the way it can be quite scuffy, and especially in certain fights, it does put the kind of frustration of kind of focus and your eye focus level to being quite disappointingly, like, I don't know, like up in the top left, when you should be kind of focusing on the stuff that's going on in the right hand side of the screen and the weird champion interactions from time to time. Now, it's not completely doom and gloom with the champion, because there are some great things about it. If you're looking for a champion that's able to do excessive amounts of debuff damage, and in particular like taking away from the likes of rupture, bleed, poisons, and doing some amazing freeze based damage, then hey, this is going to be a great option. Especially when you look at the SP2, which is consume all cryogenic charges to inflict a cold snap, dealing 5,370 energy damage over 14 seconds. While the cold snap is active, all basic attacks inflict an indefinite frostbite passive, and frostbites when shattered remove them, dealing 724 energy damage each. If you consume 6 or more cryogenic charges, the opponent is stunned for 2 seconds when all frostbites shatter. So that gives you like an immense amount of very quick damage potential, rotation, increasing damage, and just putting on a max amount that is just absolutely incredible. So there are some like fun things right here. So I think that just from what I've read right here, there's not something of kind of great interaction which you can get, like how easy will it be able to sustain that utility of taking on evade champions and purifying debuffs, which, look, you know, it is important. Now, it's not completely doom and gloom with Misty Knight, because, you know, she'll be able to deal with stuff like champions that can be relatively annoying and also, you know, frustrating. She's got a nice signature ability, and I think this is where the sort of utility comes in for the champion, but then it's like, well, should that really be the narrative to support this? To go like, okay, well, if you get the champion, you got to awaken her to be good. Should I add 200 signatures to be good? Especially, you know, dealing with this. The same way that Captain America Infinity War is usually a good champion, because you're able to do that heavily awakened, or awakened but then heavily signatured is usually the best process. So a signature ability, analyze the opponent's class to gain unique effects to counter them. And it takes 27 seconds to investigate the opponent. When the investigation is complete, she gains an effect lasting 18 seconds before restarting her investigation. So I don't know about that, because then that's like the utility, just like, well, okay, so 27 seconds to get the utility and then 18 seconds before restarting the investigation after. So it's like, hi, utility, bye, utility. I don't know if I particularly like that, apart from, say, the purification of debuffs, and as well there's somewhat dealing with evade-based champions that you get from some of the charges. But again, it flips the narrative of the playstyle, which is problematic. I don't really like that. But in any case, dealing with science-based champions, Misty instantly purifies all debuffs, and her instant purification chances jumps to 100%. I mean, that's cool. Granted, if you're going up against champions that as well have evade-based abilities, having the Frostbite or Cold Snap, one of the two, is it's good to kind of like deal with certain evade champions if there's that other type of playstyle of building to the big SP2 freeze damage payoff, or the evade based metallic arm charges. So you get a choice there. But I don't know if I really like that. I like it's either going to be slow debuff or something within the ability to get the interact, as opposed to having to build to something, which just becomes a very narrow. But it comes again like a Black Panther, like any other like a little bit like Mole Man, except for like Mole Man I think it would be a little bit better. Depends how you want to look at this, or preface this with interaction. In any case, waffling on, skill interaction. Misty gains a Fury buff. Each bleed effect you're currently on her, increasing attack rating by 537. Well, it's a bit pointless if you're going to be shrugging that off, especially, or kind of like keeping on. You don't want to keep it on, but at the same time, if you purify it, then that becomes a problem. So it's like, okay, well, am I bleeding out then, or how's this really going to work? Is it just going to stay there? I don't like that unless it's going to be quick burst of damage, and it's going to like should build more than that. With the mutants, the mystery, oh yeah, you can't do anything on that. Tech, if the opponent has 2 or more armor up buffs, when Misty's SP1 connects, a second armor break is applied. You may not want to rotate around the SP1. And then you got Cosmic, inflict a disorient debuff, in decreasing their block proficiency by 5% and defense ability action by 10% for each unique buff on the opponent. Very specific. So, I don't know. And inflict suppression debuff, reducing opponent combat rate by 10% for each bar of power in the opponent. With Mystics, who'd want to play like that? There's something about this that's just not screaming out kind of like top end performance, and I think it's just that massive payoff of debuff damage, which I think players are going to really like. But you know, maybe I've read the room wrong with this. I mean, just how I feel looking at it, it's like there's nothing overly impressive to me except for that big SP2 freeze payoff after getting what seems to be equilibrium. Like in this moment here where you're kind of building up to equilibrium, so like well, that was kind of like 12 to 10 right there, but at least to say that that's the big payoff there with the kind of like the damage as you build up. So you do that big SP2, you've built up, you start building all that frostbite, and then when the enemies you know, when it kind of like all ticks off, you've built up enough as possible to see that big kind of burst of damage, which is going to be really nice, especially on the rotation. Boom, right there with that 93k. I mean, apart from that, and as well getting stun again, or the length of stun is going to keep up the fight very, very aggressively. It's kind of like, it is what it is, and it's just like, to me, I don't see anything overly impressive on a payoff. But as I said, like, it may be like other people may find some enjoyment. And again, this champion isn't with Suicide Masteries in the deep dives, so it could be a case you see more exponential damage, which I'm going to look forward to trying out. I might try that out with Suicide Masteries, see how the champion functions, purify the bleed, purify the poison that you get from the Liquid Courage, and I can't remember what the other one was, but yeah, like basically the debuffs, the bleed and the poison, shrug them off, then you're ready to do a lot of damage. But we have to bear in mind the fact that you're going to be recoiling, and if the champion has to do SP2s and SP1s, it becomes very, very bad in kind of like trying to do that. But as I said, it is what it is. That has been my thoughts on Misty Knight. There are some other things when it comes to the synergy, but I just don't see anything kind of like great right here with it. Especially looking at what's here with the Daredevil attack. Misty Knight gains a cryogenic charge where there's a 30% chance of inflicting a busted debuff on the opponent, increasing potency of Cold Snap by 50. Right, so then that's another problem. You'd have to have Elsa Bloodstone on your team in order to improve the Cold Snap potency, which I guess is that particular question mark that's seen in the deep dive, which is that, I want to assume that one there. No, it's investigation started. So maybe the synergy isn't on there, or maybe it is. That's just the kind of main thing to kind of mention. You just don't know right here the extent of potency with it. But either way, it could be quite good. It could be quite good, potent, and all that stuff. And also, Human Torch gets a SP2 stun duration increased by 33%. That's not too bad. That's relatively helpful. But I don't know if you want to do that pair up, because it kind of restricts a lot of the utility and coverage of the team. Depends how you kind of look at it. But, you know, that's been it. That's been the video. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure as well to check out some other content located on screen right now. There may be another video if something happens in MCOC. If not, then look forward to tomorrow. And I should be doing back to the grind with other type of bits of content. Appreciate you. Much love, everybody. Bye-bye.